different places based on different realities. I am Peruvian by origin. For example, for a country as in Peru that has 71% of the tropical glaciers, we can see how all those tropical glaciers are melting. So that could mean that we are going to have water scarcity, that we could lose native crops, also that we could put or jeopardize the way of life of indigenous communities and campesinos. So that is one of the reasons why we are so vulnerable in Peru. But also Peru has a strong dependence on fisheries activity, and it depends on how cold it is our Humboldt current. So every degree or half of degree of raising temperature of the sea, it could mean loss of jobs and a lot of affectation to the fisheries activities. Also, we have a strong forestry coverage. That means that with climate change, we could see how we are going to lose that forestry coverage. So that is a reality of Peru. There are many other countries who are suffering a different reality. The state island, because of the sea level rising, for sure are suffering in their coast, and probably they should migrate to some other places because we know what it could be the future of the island. And there are some others that are more related to some specific crops. So it depends on the reality of every corner of the world, but the consequences of climate change are around the world, even with some kind of diseases. What it is happening with these diseases, Zika and chikungunya, means that the vectors of those diseases are migrating from some other places. So that is bringing to us more strong challenges, not only in relation to ecosystem and species, but also around health and around the survival of traditional communities. I think that the main message in Davos it is because we know that we are moving toward what it is called globalization 4.0 or the fourth industrial revolution. That means artificial intelligence, innovation, new technology, among some others. The idea it is that we should transition toward that time, but we shouldn't leave anybody behind. So what my main message is that we should transition in a fair way, in a way in which we shouldn't create inequality in between countries or in between human groups. So the idea it is that we know what is the next, how can we all together move toward that time in a way in which we can close the gap of inequality, in a way in which we are not going to affect jobs and we are not going to affect people. That's my first message. And my second message is the business sector could play a key role, not only addressing climate change. And fortunately, they have already shown to be very active and responsible. They have already defined clear targets, sectorial targets. Some of those targets, it has been based on science, and they are working in energy and buildings, in transport, and among some others. Now it is a time also to define targets to address nature in the top of the priorities, because nature it is related to the economy. And fortunately, what it is happening, it is that there is some sector that it has emerged very strong in the climate that could help the nature. I am referring to forest, food, and land. When we talk about forest, we are talking about nature. When we talk about food, most of the food it is based on natural resources. So that is why I think that by linking that sector in between climate and create the synergies with biodiversity, we could address both challenges. And that is my main message to the World Economic Forum. That is a very important question, but we can deal with that and we can address that kind of challenge by keeping the long-term vision. I am used to saying that in the path toward a 2050 decarbonized and resilient economy, we will have a lot of political accidents. No, it is not going to be an easy path. It's going to have some obstacles and some limits and some political difficulties. But if we are able to keep the long-term vision, if we know that by 2050 we should have a net zero carbon economy and a resilient economy, if we know that what we are trying to achieve by 2030 it is a sustainable development goal, there won't be room for deniers. I think that deniers are losing room, deniers are reducing their number, but for sure we will continue having some of those. But if we can keep the long-term vision, we are going to overpass these kind of difficulties. Two things. First, that when we talk about climate change, we know that what we are expecting it is to peak emissions no later than 2020. Second, that what we know it is that we should effectively reduce emissions. So that means that we should change our behavior in the economy, in our citizen behavior to effectively reduce the emission. So that the technology could play a complementary role. But what we are seeking it is to have the economic activities reducing those emissions. And in relation to the technology that could come to support this kind of action, it should be based in very clear governance rules. It shouldn't be non-sustainable. It shouldn't be disruptive of the nature. And also it should be sustainable proof, because the idea it is that we are not going to replace the damage that we are creating now with technology that could create the same kind or a bigger damage. So that are my message in relation to the innovation. So when we talk about innovation, it is important that it could be based in strong values of ethic, solidarity, and also the innovation could help people to change. So the idea it is not to have the technology replacing people and making the citizens and the people being irrelevant. The idea it is that technology could help the people to grow and to get the development that they are expecting. It is difficult because we are used to working with some structure. Our governmental structure are used to being traditional and very conservative. So we do need to start to explore how could we organize our structure to face the new challenges. But let me say that what it is happening in some countries, for example, France and Spain, they have just created this Ministry for Ecological Transition that not only sounds good because we are moving into an ecological transition, but it's sending a strong political message that Spain and France are planning to redefine their own structure as a way to address climate change. We in Latin America, we are still working based in the traditional Ministry for the Environment. I think that this could evolve, and it is something that we could develop step by step. How? By mainstreaming climate, nature, and development into the planning process, and also by engaging more strongly Ministry of Finance. That is a key element because, as you know, for a developing country, the Ministry of Finance it is the key element to take decisions and to create a real change.